There's a quiet phase where almost all traders go through, and it's what I like to call the invisible phase, where we're in our bedrooms, curtains are half drawn, coffee's cold on the side because we're concentrating during the session, and no one really sees or knows what we're doing. And the people that do know what we're doing either think it's just a phase, either thinks that you're just gambling, or they just think it's an expensive hobby. And this is real right now for hundreds of thousands of people trading alone in their bedroom with no colleagues and no accountability. And you're not necessarily invisible because no one can see you. You're invisible because you have really nothing to show for what you're doing. And this invisibility phase doesn't break people because it's hard. It breaks people because they have no scaffolding. In any other career, in any other job, you have structure, you have scaffolding, you have clear feedback. You have a boss telling you you're doing well. You have a paycheck every month telling you that you're doing a good job. And trading alone in a bedroom strips all of that out. You don't have a boss. You don't have someone holding you accountable. You don't have a monthly paycheck. It's all on you. The only feedback you have is your equity curve, and that's a direct reflection of you and your performance. But very often early on in your journey, that equity curve is not a reliable reflection of you. It's not a reliable source of what you're doing, because very often the samples are too small to draw conclusions from. Whether that's 20, 30, 50 trades, they're all still pretty much noise. So for the first few years, you're running a business with no external clients, no customers, no boss, no salary, no title, and no clear feedback loop. And that is a brutal environment to live in. I've lived in it myself, and it can be depressing. It can be incredibly taxing on your mental. And people often romanticize this lonely period in your journey, this grinding phase that you're going through. But it's not all glamorous. The people don't talk about the phase where you doubt yourself, the phase where you lie in bed looking at your ceiling, wide awake, wondering if this is even worth it. And you genuinely don't know if this is a future profession or if this is just an expensive hobby. There's quite a psychological problem within this invisible phase, and it's something that I like to call the verification problem. Because the verification problem is this: you are the only one keeping score. You are the only one logging your trades. You are the only one saying whether you should take a trade or not. You wrote the journal, you logged the trades, you decide what counts and what doesn't. And that entire record exists within one person. The player, the referee, the commentator. You are that whole person. And you can be completely honest with yourself, and most people are, but it's very easy to bury your problems in the sand, bury your head in the sand. And the numbers don't feel as solid when you're writing them down yourself, because you're the one writing them down. They don't necessarily have meaning to them. And not necessarily because you want external validation, but because the numbers feel different when someone else is keeping track, when someone else is holding to account. And there are basically two ways out of this kind of verification problem. And number one is prop firms. You can build a track record on a prop firm, you can go through the funded phase, you can get your certificates, and everything is tracked within that prop firm. And you can share that information if you so wish. The second is platforms like DarwinexZero, where you build a track record, you upload it to their platform, and they keep track. Those are the ones tracking that information that the public can view. And the Darwin doesn't lie. It's doing the bookkeeping for you. You're not the one keeping score. You're not the one tracking those trades. Someone else is. I want to be careful here because neither of these are shortcuts. Both of these still require you to trade well. Because if you can't trade well, you will not do well in prop firms. You will not do well building a live track record. What they solve is the verification problem, not the performance problem. The performance is still on you. You still have to trade well. You still have to manage your positions. You have to have good risk management. You have to have an edge. But once your numbers exist somewhere outside of yourself, once they start existing outside of your own personal track record, everything changes because you stop being the only witness. And this is probably the thing that I wish someone told me during this invisible phase. And it's possibly going to sound counterintuitive, but the invisible phase isn't punishment, it's a necessary requirement. Because you don't want a track record, you don't want to undertake prop firms if you don't have the skill yet, if you can't manage your risk, and if you can't trade well. Because often, If you do this, that's often worse than being invisible, because you're being visible for the wrong reasons, because you're trading poorly, you're blowing accounts. And the traders who skip this invisible phase and go straight to funded challenges, or straight to DarwinexZero, or straight to trading live in a Discord group, this becomes the visible phase of looking like a bad trader in public and acting like a bad trader in public. The invisible phase is where you should be making the mistakes, not necessarily in the public phase. Sure, you can make mistakes in public, but those cannot be catastrophic losses. In the invisible phase, you're likely going to take sizable losses. You're likely going to take catastrophic losses, which is fine, because that's how you learn, that's how you grow, and that's how you build. But once you start trying to grow a track record, once you start trying to pass prop firm challenges, these catastrophic losses simply cannot happen, because you've gone through that phase. You should have gone through that invisible phase of learning these bad habits, these poor lessons that you should not be taking over into these challenges or into these live track record environments. And the day you walk out of this invisible phase isn't necessarily the day you graduate and you become a trader, but you finally built some of the characteristics, some of the habits that are successful traits of a trader. And then you can actually start to compound your growth and stop making these amateur mistakes and actually build on a live track record or through these prop firm evaluations. There's one more thing that I guess nobody really tells you once you kind of graduate from this phase. Whilst you might have the skill, whilst you might have the ability, you don't necessarily have the capital. You don't necessarily have the allocation yet. But that comes with time. That comes with consistently applying your edge, consistently applying your intuition, your good habits, your good traits, the good characteristics that create consistency, that create discipline. Once you consistently apply this, your capital will eventually grow. Your allocation will eventually grow, because you're showing people you have that skill set and you're demonstrating that in a live environment. The career is mostly checkpoints. It's this phase one of being in your bedroom where nobody really knows you, nobody really sees you. The second one is maybe getting funded with a prop firm, gaining certificates, gaining payouts. And then the third is gradually building a live track record, a long-term live track record where asset managers can see, DarwinexZero investors can see, and start allocating you real investor capital. And if you're in this bedroom phase right now, the worst thing you can do is try and rush your way out of it and try and rush and push the process, because good habits take time to build. Good characteristics take time to build. Real edge takes time to build. It's not something that you find watching one YouTube video. It's something that you build over time through hours and hours and hours of staring at charts, taking executions, learning from your mistakes. The best thing you can do right now is take it seriously enough that when you do walk out of this bedroom phase, when you do walk out of this verification problem, you're actually someone who's worth following, whose knowledge is actually useful to you, and you have actually built a skill that can gain you funding, that can gain you capital allocation, and all of these achievements. So most of trading happens before anyone is watching. That's not a tragedy. That's just the deal. You sign up for it the moment you decide to take it seriously. And if you're in your version of the bedroom right now, you're not behind, and you're not invisible because you're failing. You're invisible because the work is still pre-public. Stay in it, get the results, and build the data. The day someone else starts keeping score is probably closer than it feels. If this resonated with you, hit the subscribe button, comment down below, give it a like, and I'll see you in the next one.